talked about dark crystal.
Oh, because
dark crystal is such.
It is telling you that they've always told you.
Yeah.
This is one thing that hybrid Europeans have always done, because they know divine law. Whether they use stories to tell you, fiction books and movies, they tell you to reduce their karmic response. The key is to what? To get the people to keep consenting to them, consenting to their authority. They are great deceivers. Their missionary work is to deceive you. They have no authority. They have no jurisdiction. We keep giving it to them to the point that we're convinced that they have the power. We keep giving it to them. This issue of the income tax is just a perfect example of why they're still in power, because you keep funding them against the law. You keep funding them.
It says right in their paperwork that it's voluntary.
Of course it is, which means consent. And they know it's a fraud. It's like this. Look. What section of the Constitution that all persons that claim any office, clerk, secretary, Congress, representative, council person, mayor, governor, president, any position of office, or any contractor dealing with them in relationship to the people must take an oath of office and also sign oaths of ethics, which we will deal with in the future. Document it. So when these people keep pretending they don't understand constitutional obligation and treaty obligation, they're lying. And when you and the so-called leader guys and girls around you keeps talking about, well, they didn't really understand this, they're lying too. And because you keep defending a fraud, they've entrenched themselves and they're damaging you and your families to the point that many of you are a paycheck off the curb. Let me tell you something. You ain't seen the horns of these demons yet. You think you have. Stop supporting them. And we know the rule of cause and effect. If we could just get you to stop allowing them to misclassify you, just declare the honor of your mothers and fathers. Do that much. It will kill the bond system that they sell around the world, which is really what's been happening anyway. But you want to start us moving ahead. Stop feeding the beast. Because his number is 666 and it's the number of a man. They're members of the Roman Curia. They're members of the Circle Church and Chancery. They're called Sadducees and Pharisees, i.e. they're attorneys, attorners, and lawyers. With their helpers or minions known as bishopric, also known as clergymen, standing behind a pulpit, claiming to love Jesus, God, and Allah, and they love themselves. They're just contaminating everything that represents anything divine. They use it because you keep falling for it. They just give you in different flavors. What kind of popsicle y'all want this week? The purple lollipop or the green one? They call it sex. S-E-C-T-S. And also they call it denominations. Oh boy. It's amazing when you really study us and see how willingly naive we have been to the injury of ourselves, our families, and our children. And then we got the nerve to march all over the place, praying all the daggone time, and starting new alphabet soup organizations to deal with rights and never read a constitution or a treaty. and allow these human traffickers to call your labor and your pecuniary wages income, and you sign papers saying that you have income and you don't, never did. Or you're a foreign corporation that made a capital investment in a foreign port and then generated capital assessments, assets, and then you do the percentage of the profit made from that, which is what income is, and income is nothing else. And if you haven't done that, you don't have damn income. And if you sign papers and say you have income, you just committed a fraud, and they have a right to your estate. And that's what they've been doing to you. And you keep feeding them. Then you teach it to your family members. Because you don't want the truth. When somebody tells the truth, they try to tell you it's an opinion. I gave you their own documents. So stop pretending you don't know. You want to help your families? Stop that energy stream right there alone. Their bullshit will collapse overnight. They live on your virtues because you keep on letting them. And you keep on violent. You complain about them misrepresenting you, then you sign and misrepresent yourself knowingly. Now you know, so don't pretend you don't know. How about doing that? Institute that. Help your family with that. That'll help us move ahead quickly. Because remember, we're in the doo-doo because we keep swimming across the turd pool. Jumping in the cesspool calling, oh, how you like my back room, my backyard pool here? It's a cesspool. Well, we need our own perfume factory. Well, if you stop jumping in the cesspool, you won't need perfume. How about that? It's like you see a bunch of people standing, banging their head on the edge of a brick building talking about, whoo, you know, our people need their own aspirin factory. A little child come along and say, well, if you stop banging your head, you won't even need aspirins. How about that? Marching and praying all over the place, making ourselves fools on our own land. Going to buy your own estate from a foreigner who's occupying you. Under a color of law, color of authority, with a de facto, defunct, and dissolved corporate entity that they lied to you since 1871, told you was a country, and you bought into it. And that's what you're suffering from right now. The ignorance is amazing. While we sit around and talk about gods and devils every 5 minutes and don't even know basic stuff of operations on the planet. It's extremely disgusting, really.
Well, it's frustrating because so many things.
Because even a child could understand. You could present this information to a grade schooler and they can rationalize this. And adults have difficulty putting 2 and 2 together. You know, I think metaphysically 2 and 2 is 3.5 because the religion that I belong to, and they start that kind of dizzy stuff. And then they put it on their children. And then get negative results and then blame the devil. And he never did nothing to them. The devil walking around on 2 feet.
There's a question about Chief Federal Postal Judge Mark Christopher. Are you familiar with him? The question is whether or not Chief Federal Postal Judge Mark Christopher can be trusted or not. You know, he's the one that comes on from.
Learn to trust yourself. If you understand these principles, know why he speaks the way he speaks. Because basically, a lot of people, particularly a lot of Europeans and others, hybrid Europeans, people that are not even direct heirs of this land, are speaking how you should have been speaking generations ago. And all your marching, praying leader guys know and should have been talking. The things that they're saying is what we've been telling you for 40 years, even teaching you to write writs in that type of order. You have to do it. You're the heir. Can't be, you put it this way, if you act like a ward, you will be held as ward.
Yeah, he's a Moor.
Yeah, I know, but I'm still saying what it is. Say it publicly. Everything should be said publicly.
He does.
Yeah, but I'm just saying everything should be said. What he's saying, you should be saying. All of us should be saying. And all of the so-called leaders that keep talking about nationhood and self-determination. Because they know these things, they haven't been teaching it. What they've been doing is lining their pockets and going to the Bahamas with Jesus as half every year with birth or butt. That's the truth. We need to take responsibility for our irresponsibility. You know what I mean, Dr. Naila? And stop playing victim.
Mo West says, how are we supposed to know all this?
You easily go in yourself because it was in you. Your mom put it in you. We've denied ourselves for so many generations that we think that we can't think. That's what our problem is. Trust you. This is why, you know, a couple months ago we did, you know, self-government, understanding jurisdiction. We keep believing, we've been trained to keep looking for and believing outside of ourselves. Everything is within. And if they want to accuse or try to use the books anthropomorphically or otherwise, if they want to talk about the anthropomorphic Jesus, then he said, all of you are gods. Didn't he tell you that? Didn't Prophet Muhammad come to complete the cycles or the works of Jesus? Even though this is anthropomorphic? Isn't he his cousin, distant cousin? Yes?
Yes.
Well, there you go. Get to work, y'all. You know, our concepts, much of what we do and say has been twisted because we've gone along with what things that can be easily proven to be false or misrepresented. And to get along with people or to be liked by people in organized groups and etc., we've accepted things that we knew are misrepresentations that can be proven to be misrepresentations, where we must admit that while over the generations we have taught the forces and powers of nature and cosmology in anthropomorphic form, whether via Jesus, Yeshua, or Muhammad, etc. These are anthropomorphic figures of powers and forces, not so much actual physical men. However, the collateral damage of these things, the anthropomorphic presentments not really honestly being explained to the people, has again caused much of this mental collateral damage that exists now when people are looking at these platforms that have been presented as religion. And therefore, the concepts have been corrupted. That is also collateral damage because the anthropomorphic truths have not been told. We have not rejected them. It's just that they're for children. Grow up and put your childish things aside and stop allowing the human traffickers to take all of the ancient symbolisms and pervert them as symbols of the devils, when in fact, those are scientific and cosmological and geometric symbols of both your body forms, your evolutionary development on both the spiritual and the physical level, etc., and also symbols of character building, etc., and the forces of nature, and are not demonic whatsoever. However, what you have is human traffickers and people with demonic spirits themselves that have taken that which exists in ancient Asia, ancient Africa, and contaminated them and hide behind them for their own good. That's why you must study so that you don't throw out the baby with the bathwater. Keep that in mind, because we've been doing that too.
Yeah.
Oh, was there something else too?
Well, let me see if there are any more questions. Keep those questions coming, y'all. Let me see. Let me make sure I can get missing a point. Trying to. In the meantime, could you tell them? We'll share with them this book that I shared with you today.
Oh yeah.
This is the first one. This is not the one I gave you.
Yeah.
But this is the old one.
Now, this is a book Dr. Naila shared with me, and this book is by Vernon Howard. Yeah, and it's called 1,500 Ways to Escape the Human Jungle. Awesome. And I just want to read a couple of the statements from the book, and it's clear that Vernon has been studying ancient African philosophy, Sufi philosophy. That means those with the hair, with the men who wear the wool, or the woolly headed ones, because that's your Gnostic wisdom or your Hermetic law, or that what they call Gnosticism, which is the root of all the philosophies of religion on Midgard, in fact. Now, but I'll read a couple of them.
I got one from one. Let me jump to
Hold
on. This is 12:22.
All right, go ahead.
It says most people react wrongly to rescue. But if you take away my suffering, who will I be?
Yeah.
In other words,
yes.
You know how
they identify with their
suffering.
Now, this is back to what we talked about when most people don't know themselves because they spent most of their lives molding themselves around Job, around the job. Mm-hmm. They're educated. They don't know that their life is molded around work in service to other men who have not their interest in mind or in heart, which is why a lot of people are confused right now because they're trying to get back to a job system that was never normal in the first instance.
True. We thought it was.
But we look at that as normal.
Right.
And it's been disrupted, but it does show you, what it does expose is the effect of the psychic attacks that have been put on humanity for generations, because this is where a lot of the healing must take place too. Right. For people to really begin to know themselves. Mm-hmm. And to even get to the point of enjoying the fruits of their own labor a little bit. Mm-hmm. Now, here's another one. And share a few, because I know you had a few good ones that you were going to show. But I want to read the strange facts about the human jungle. Human society is simply men and women pretending that the game of pretense is not going on. 2, humanity appreciates truth about as much as a squirrel appreciates silver. 3, if you think that his or her happy face is a mask covering unhappiness, you are right. What most men call their conscience is imaginary virtue switching left or right according to self-interest. Anyway, it's a very good, good book.
Here's one. 878 in this.
Go ahead.
It says a conditioned mind can teach right living about as much as a small child can teach astronomy. And most of us do. We have been programmed. They say he's conditioned. And
if you pay attention, that's what they've done in all the dogmatic religious platforms. They have not really been teaching breathing techniques, which is spirituality, nor the Gnostic philosophies, which is the religion. And they've actually misrepresented their own programming of their dogma sects as religion and has corrupted the world. There you go, collateral damage, which is why many people can't handle this situation that they're faced with now today. Give us another one.
885 says the real solution to social problems cannot be explained to anyone who does not want to hear himself explained. Mm-hmm. We don't want, we never see ourselves in the picture. It's always what somebody's doing to us, or
so it comes under the category of sheep and wolf.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
No, that comes under give no false rewards. Yeah. Isn't that casting pearls to the swine thing?
True.
Because you can see they're all actually Gnostic philosophies. And so, this writer has been clearly studying Hermetic law.
569 is what is called worship or meditation is often nothing but an evasion of personal responsibility for self-awakening.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. So,
and it's true.
And I know, look, we know this book's gonna sell out.
Yeah.
Book. Every time we tell you about the book,
and for also comfort reading.
But this, when I find something that
this is very
this has got 1,500. That's the first one I got, the old book. That's why. But I gave you a new one.
Mm.
Let me see if there are any more questions, comments. Let me see any comments.
Yeah, and because give you an honest look at yourself. From the nature of how we have been trained to respond to each other.
Mhm.
And as a matter of fact, a lot of the insights, gives us a mirror to ourselves and shows how we've been actually molded into this artificiality, that we've been calling the good life because we got a job and ain't got paid, even, thinking that we've been paid. All of these paradigms, false paradigms are collapsing. So humanity must be prepared for a new evolutionary era.
I think each of us individually
Is true too.
Has to prepare, because we come in alone
Mhm.
and we leave out alone.
Yes.
But it's between, the time between the dash that we interact with everyone else, but each one has to heal him or her own self.
Yes. And you have to be aware of.
Yeah, you can't.
And take responsibility.
Absolutely.
And the psychology, and this is, again, in order for the priesthood to feed on the people, this is why they have created the sacrificial lamb paradigm, which is really not the teachings of Jesus, the sacrificial lamb type mentality. So they could feed on the people as the people look for this outside savior when the savior is within self. It, as well as mean that they must bear their own cross.
Absolutely.
But they must understand what the cross is. It's not necessarily negative, if you get the point. It's really earth navigation. Because that's what it is. It's called the mundane cross.
Okay, that was just a little station break, because when I find something that I feel would be beneficial,
that'd be helpful, yeah.
I want to share that with you. Tarik Sniper Bey, what's the difference between erudite and adept?
Erudite is basically what an adept would be. So education is to draw out, to pull out, right? Erudition is where you more or less become masterful, and an adept is one who masters, or what you would call master degree, or someone who's a PhD. Essentially, in your different social structures at Midgard, in different organizations, matters not. Someone is a PhD or doctorate of philosophy, that would be an adept. So like if you have someone who's like, say, a pastor, a bishop, an imam, a rabbi, a master carpenter, a mason, Eastern Star, Knights Templar, Knights of Columbus, they have different agendas, but all of those would be PhDs. They would be adept. When they have a title, when anyone has a title, they are essentially adept or erudite in the philosophy or the discipline so addressed.
Mine's a THD.
So addressed.
Right, so that's it. Let me see.
And keep in mind, when you have, and this is also why why people must study, and because that's good, because it leads to other issues. See, once people understand these fundamental rules, right? They know when you see people running around with titles, they're this and they're that, and they got 50 titles, and they have not produced literature or a product, they have no business with that title. I mean, if somebody tell you they're a doctor of this, or their imam, or their rabbi, or their grand sheikh, or their sheikhs, or their an adept, and they have not produced literature to be critiqued amongst humanity, they're wrongly holding the title. That's another reason why they've been getting away with misleading people, because they make statements and take positions that they won't put their signature to.
Interesting.
They're called armchair rulers.
Someone says, explain Bey Maurice Toshira. Explain those Mongolian. I think they mean Mongolian mixed breeds. Mongolians and mixed. I don't know, Mongolian mixed breeds.
Let's keep it very simple. It is best described of the human family, truthfully, and because we're talking about linguistic group, but we're also talking about how man has populated the earth. In general, to be safe, with some refined examination, the different nations of the earth can be referred to as Berber gypsies. That's a fact. On another level, when you're talking about the Mongolians, who you refer to the Mongolians, you can refer to as the Dravidian or the Naga tribes of Central Africa, who crossed the Red Sea, went to the northern part of Asia. And if you would want to examine them, look at the ancient traditional dress and costumes of all of the people of Africa, compare them to all of the people of North Asia, of Phoenicia, Iberian Peninsula that you know as Europe, and you will see absolute cosmological structure and geometric structure, congruency, continuity, similarity, and symbolism, i.e., you're looking at Asia, Africa on the planet, period. So you're just looking at the extended family of Africa. That's what you're looking at. But if you want to be more specific, you just look at it. Look at the Naga of Central Sudan and Nubia. So you're still dealing with ancient Canaanite Moabites. That's all you're dealing with. All of us, and it ain't got a daggone thing to do with religion. It's called pedigree and bloodline.
Nor does it have necessarily to do with the complexion per se.
Huh?
Skin color.
It never did. It never. That whole paradigm is Carlos Linnaeus, the 1700s. People keep taking social engineering control systems that were set up by German naturalists like Friedrich Johann Blumenbach, Carlos Linnaeus, and others. And what's the other naturalist? I forget the other naturals that they always use dealing with the so-called monkey theory. And you can look at that as being adopted into the social operations of the U.S. corporation with their operations at North America, particularly in the Census Bureau, etc. This stuff has nothing to do with the true history of the genealogy of the human family. It is more psychological warfare for creating schismata and divisionisms for the priesthood who chose to make themselves gods over the people, hiding behind Brahma, hiding behind Allah, hiding behind Amalek, hiding behind Yahweh, hiding behind Jesus, etc., which all of these are anthropomorphic expressions of actually the development of the glandular systems, the cosmological impersonation called anthropomorphism, given to structured metaphors, teachings, and mythologies to pass information and preserve information for generations. But in fact, most of these beings in the actual physical form, as taught anthropomorphically, didn't exist the way that people think they do. However, they do exist in the personalities of men and women. Now, that's the truth. Know the difference. Next.
Okay. Let's see. JL Puckett 40 says, how do I start collecting taxes for my newfound stolen land?
Make more people conscious, because the real deal, all that paradigm is dying. That's part of what's going on now. That's part of what I didn't want to really get into this because I don't want to put things out there.
So people say you said to do this.
No, so because a lot of things will be countered, because some things we're talking about, there's some things we're talking about are actually projections, meaning that if you go up and look at things, right, you're looking at placement of things, and some things are things to come. Some things, if you say, then the dark priesthood will injure certain people to try to stop things. So some things you don't say, but let's say this way. The tax systems, as you've known it, will not be part of the future for humanity.